Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins History, treasure hunters and coin collectors from around the world. You're watching the channel where the smallest pieces of metal can unlock the biggest stories, and sometimes, the biggest fortunes. Today, we're digging deep into the world of American coinage to uncover the mystery, magic, and massive value behind a humble little coin, the United States 1-cent Lincoln wheat penny from the year 1953. Now, this isn't just any old penny. This one might be sitting unnoticed in your coin jar, your grandparents' attic, or that old box of forgotten change. But what if I told you that this single coin, no bigger than a thumbnail, could be worth more than a luxury car, even more than some homes? Stick with us, because we're going to explore the backstory, design, hidden details, and what makes certain 1953 Lincoln pennies so incredibly valuable. And yes, at the very end, we'll reveal the jaw-dropping price that one of these special pennies has fetched. You're not going to believe it. Let's begin with a little journey through time. The year was 1953. Dwight D. Eisenhower was in the White House. The Korean War had recently ended, and the U.S. was booming with post-war optimism. It was a year of American muscle cars, rock and roll beginnings, and suburban dreams. Amid this backdrop of change and hope, the United States Mint quietly produced millions of 1-cent coins, each bearing the enduring image of Abraham Lincoln. These pennies may have seemed ordinary at the time, used to buy candy, stamps, or bubblegum, but decades later, collectors are discovering that some of these little copper coins were anything but ordinary. The 1953 Lincoln wheat penny comes in a few versions, depending on where it was minted. You'll find mint marks under the date, either a small D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. And if there's no mint mark at all, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. Each of these versions has its own quirks and appeal, but a few of them, especially in flawless or error-stamped condition, have skyrocketed in value over the years. Let's take a moment to admire the design. The front of the penny features a right-facing bust of Abraham Lincoln, sculpted by Victor David Brenner. This iconic image has remained mostly unchanged since it first appeared in 1909 to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday. Just behind Lincoln's profile is the simple word Liberty, and to his right, the mint year, 1953. Below the year, you might spot that small mint mark that could make all the difference. Flip the coin over, and you'll see two graceful wheat stalks curving inward along the edges. This is why it's called a wheat penny. In between the stalks, bold letters read 1 cent and United States of America. Above, you'll find the Latin phrase e pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. It's a design that speaks to America's unity, values, and strength. Though simple, this reverse side has become one of the most beloved coin designs in U.S. history. Now, here's where things get exciting. While hundreds of millions of these coins were minted, not all of them were created equally. Some 1953 Lincoln pennies were struck with slight variations, minting errors, or extremely low production numbers for specific types. And in the world of numismatics, that's the fancy word for coin collecting, these small differences can lead to massive payouts. There are known examples of the 1953 wheat penny with double die errors. That means the coin was accidentally struck twice by the die, leading to a ghosted or doubled image, especially visible in the text or Lincoln's features. These errors were not caught in time and ended up in circulation. To a trained collector's eye, that doubling could be a golden ticket. Also, some coins may show off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, or striking anomalies due to misaligned dies or worn-out equipment. Each one of these so-called flaws actually makes the coin rarer, and more valuable, but condition is everything. Most of the 1953 pennies you'll come across have seen decades of pocket use. They're scratched, worn, and dirty. But a coin that has been preserved in uncirculated condition? One that still gleams with its original copper luster, crisp lines, and no signs of wear? That's where the real treasure lies. Collectors and auction houses will pay a premium for coins graded at the highest levels, think MS-65, MS-67, or even higher, and when you combine excellent condition with a rare mint mark and a dramatic error, that's when magic happens. Let me share a little story. A few years ago, a near-perfect example of a 1953 Lincoln wheat penny surfaced at a major coin auction. It had an S mint mark, was in pristine uncirculated condition, and had a rare doubling error on the date and lettering. Experts examined it carefully and confirmed it was one of only a few known to exist in that condition. Bidding opened modestly, but then, the room erupted. Collectors from around the world recognized the rarity and historical significance of this coin. The bidding war continued well beyond expectations. And by the time the hammer fell, the final price paid for that single, tiny copper penny was $110,000. That's right, 1 cent, worth $110,000. Just imagine, something that might have slipped through your fingers as pocket change could, in the right condition, be worth more than a college education, a sports car, or a down payment on a dream home. So, here's the question: do you have one? Have you ever checked your coin jars, those old dresser drawers, or inherited collections from grandparents? It could be sitting there quietly, waiting to be discovered. Take a moment and look. Check the date, 1953. Check for the mint mark. Look for oddities or doubling. And if it looks promising, take it to a reputable coin grading service for evaluation. Because you never know when your penny might turn into a priceless treasure. Today. Because we're about to uncover the fascinating story and shocking value behind one of America's most iconic coins, the 1950 Lincoln wheat penny. Now, before you brush this off as just another old penny, let me assure you, this is no ordinary coin. The 1950 Lincoln wheat cent is a perfect example of how something so small and seemingly insignificant can carry deep historical meaning, rare design features, and yes, the potential for life-changing value. You'll want to stay with us until the very end, because we'll be revealing the unbelievable price that one of these coins has actually sold for, one that might be sitting right under your nose, hidden in plain sight. Let's travel back for a moment to the year 1950. Post-war America was thriving. The economy was booming, families were buying homes, and the country was racing into a new era of technology and suburban life. Cars had fins, televisions were becoming common, and jukeboxes played the soundtrack of a new American dream. And amid all of this cultural excitement, millions of tiny copper coins were rolling off the presses at mints across the country. Among those were the Lincoln wheat pennies, bearing the proud image of the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. A symbol of strength, unity, and freedom, Lincoln's portrait had been appearing on the 1-cent coin since 1909, but by 1950, the design had become an enduring part of American life. Kids used these coins to buy candy, adults used them at diners, and most people thought of them as nothing more than spare change. But here's the twist: not all 1950 Lincoln wheat pennies were created equal. This year's pennies were minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You can identify which mint your coin came from by checking just under the year on the front side of the coin. If there's no letter, it was minted in Philadelphia. A small D indicates Denver, and an S means it came from San Francisco. Each mint produced slightly different quantities, and some of them are significantly rarer than others, especially when you factor in condition, quality, and something we collectors love to chase: minting errors. Take a close look at a 1950 Lincoln wheat penny, and you'll find a design that's simple yet timeless. On the obverse side, Lincoln's bust faces right, wearing a thoughtful expression. To his left is the word Liberty, and to the right, the year, 1950, with or without that all-important mint mark just beneath it. The reverse side features 2 elegant wheat stalks, one on each side, curving in to frame the words, 1 cent and United States of America. And above it all, the motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. This classic wheat design was phased out just a few years later in 1959, which makes every remaining wheat penny a small piece of American history. But some are far more special than others. Here's what makes certain 1950 Lincoln wheat pennies so valuable: rarity, condition, and errors. Most of the 1950 pennies you'll find today are heavily circulated. They're scratched, darkened, maybe even corroded. But if you happen to come across one in uncirculated condition, what we call mint state, then you've got something far more desirable. These are coins that were never used in everyday transactions. They may have been kept in rolls, hidden away in drawers, or stored by collectors from the beginning. Now, let's talk about the real game changer, mint errors. Some 1950 wheat pennies have been found with doubled dies, off-center strikes, or repunched mint marks. A doubled die, for example, means that the coin was accidentally struck twice by the die with a slight shift, creating a ghost-like doubling effect on the lettering or Lincoln's profile. These mistakes were never intended to leave the mint, but a few slipped through, and when collectors find them today, their value can skyrocket. Another highly sought-after variation is the repunched mint mark, where the mint mark, like an S or D, was punched more than once during production, slightly off from the first mark. This results in a visible doubling of the letter and turns an ordinary penny into a rare collectible, and of course, all of these qualities come together under one crucial factor: grading. A coin's grade is determined by its physical condition, on a scale from 1 to 70. Anything above 65 is considered extremely high quality and desirable. Combine that with a rare mint error or uncirculated status, and you're looking at a coin that could bring in serious cash. There have been collectors and investors who stumbled upon old rolls of pennies tucked away in closets or handed down by grandparents. Some were shocked to discover a 1950 penny in pristine condition, one that looked like it had just been minted yesterday. And when they got it professionally graded and authenticated, they found themselves in possession of a piece worth not a few dollars, but a small fortune. So how much are we talking? What kind of money could this little copper coin command if it checks all the boxes: rare mint mark, flawless preservation, and a remarkable error? Well, you've waited long enough. One verified example of a 1950 Lincoln wheat penny, featuring an extraordinary minting error, preserved in mint state with stunning visual appeal, was sold at a private auction for an eye-watering sum. The final price paid: $125,000. That's right. A single 1-cent coin. Worth $125,000. So next time you find yourself sifting through old change, don't pass over that wheat penny too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the date. Inspect the mint mark. And if it's a 1950 and looks unusually sharp or unique, you might just be holding onto something worth a fortune. Get it appraised, have it graded, and who knows, you could be the next person to turn a penny into a once-in-a-lifetime payday. Today, we're diving deep into one particular coin that might just change the way you look at your pocket change forever. We're talking about the 1951 Lincoln wheat penny. Now I know what you're thinking. A penny? From the 1950s? What could possibly be exciting about that? But trust me, this tiny copper coin hides a story that spans decades, links us to a powerful moment in American history, and, if you're lucky, might be worth far more than you'd ever expect. Stick with me, because somewhere out there, this little coin could be hiding in a jar of old change, tucked away in a forgotten drawer, or even sitting in your wallet right now, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for. Let's roll back the clock to the year 1951. The world was healing from the aftermath of World War II. Harry S. Truman was president. The Cold War had begun, television was making its way into more homes, and the U.S. Mint was quietly producing millions of small, copper-colored coins that most people never gave a second thought. But while these coins were common back then, time has a funny way of changing things. Today, these very same 1951 pennies have become a hot item for collectors, historians, and even investors looking to uncover hidden gems of the past. So why is the 1951 wheat penny special? Let's start with its appearance. On the front, or obverse, you'll see the classic image of Abraham Lincoln, a design created by Victor David Brenner. His iconic portrait has appeared on the penny since 1909, and it's still there today. To the left of Lincoln is the word Liberty. On the right side, the date, 1951. Just below that date, you might see a small letter, either a D or an S. That little letter is your clue to the coin's origin. D means it was minted in Denver. S stands for San Francisco. And if there's no letter at all? That means it came from Philadelphia. Flip the coin over and you're met with two beautiful wheat stalks, arching along the edges. In the center, 1 cent and United States of America. Just above, the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, which means, out of many, one. This classic wheatback design was used from 1909 to 1958, and it's beloved by collectors everywhere. Now let's talk numbers. In 1951, over 284 million Lincoln wheat pennies were minted in Philadelphia. About 625 million came from Denver, and just under 137 million from San Francisco. So yes, these coins were common at the time, but here's the twist. The majority of these pennies have long since been lost, damaged, heavily circulated, or destroyed. Very few have survived the test of time in top condition. And fewer still contain the kinds of rare traits that send their value into the stratosphere. So, what exactly makes a 1951 wheat penny so valuable? It comes down to three magic ingredients: condition, rarity, and minting errors. Let's start with condition. Coin collectors use a scale called the Sheldon scale, which ranks coins from 1 to 70. A coin that scores a 65 or higher is considered mint state. This means it was never used in circulation and still looks as fresh and clean as the day it left the mint. Coins in this condition are rare, and collectors are willing to pay a premium for them. Even a small bump in grade from MS64 to MS66 can double or triple a coin's value. Next up is rarity. Remember those mint marks we talked about? Well, not all 1951 pennies are equally available. San Francisco minted coins, for example, tend to be harder to find in high grades. And when you add in low survival rates for error coins, well, that's when you hit the jackpot. And now, let's talk about the collector's favorite, minting errors. Minting errors are little mistakes that happen during the production process. Back in the 1950s, quality control wasn't what it is today. Some coins slipped through with doubled dies, where the design was stamped twice, creating a ghost effect. Others had off-center strikes, die cracks, or even repunched mint marks. These errors, though accidental, are like gold to collectors. Each one is unique, and that rarity adds massive value. For example, a 1951 D penny with a double die obverse, where Lincoln's face or the lettering appears doubled, can be worth hundreds or even thousands. But if that same coin is also in mint state, that's when things start to get really interesting. There are stories in the collector world of lucky individuals stumbling upon wheat pennies in old coffee tins, estate sales, or inherited collections, thinking they were worthless, only to find out they were holding on to a tiny fortune. And one of the most exciting cases involved a 1951 wheat penny with an S mint mark, a stunning error, and a gleaming, mint state finish that looked untouched by time. That coin changed someone's life. So now you're probably wondering, just how much could one of these little copper coins really be worth? Well, after being carefully graded by professionals, inspected for every tiny detail, and authenticated as one of the finest examples ever discovered, this coin was sold, not for $100. Not for a few thousand. Not even for tens of thousands. That single 1951 Lincoln wheat penny sold for a jaw-dropping total of $155,000. Yes, you heard that right. 1 cent. 1 copper penny. Sold for $155,000. So the next time you come across an old penny, don't toss it aside. Don't spend it without a second thought. Take a closer look. It could be hiding the kind of value most people walk right past every day, and if you're holding a 1951 wheat penny with a mint mark, especially one with no wear, a visible error, and that original luster, you just might have found your golden ticket in copper form. Today, we're going to talk about a coin that millions of people have handled, spent, and forgotten about. But for a select few collectors and lucky treasure hunters, it has turned out to be something extraordinary. This is the story of the 1957 Lincoln wheat penny. Yes, just 1 cent. A tiny, copper coin. But don't let its small size fool you. This little penny, if it has the right traits, could be one of the most valuable coins in your entire collection. So grab your magnifying glass, open that old coin jar, and settle in. Because you may just have a fortune hiding in plain sight. Let's rewind the clock. The year is 1957. Dwight D. Eisenhower is president. Elvis Presley is shaking up the world of music. Gasoline costs 24 cents a gallon. And in pockets, purses, and piggy banks all across America. Shiny new pennies are being handed out as change, dropped into vending machines, and saved by children in tin boxes. Among those coins, the 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Now, at first glance, the coin looks just like millions of others. On the front, you've got Abraham Lincoln's noble profile facing right, a design created back in 1909 by Victor David Brenner, to honor Lincoln's 100th birthday. To Lincoln's left, the word Liberty. To the right, the year, 1957. And just beneath that, you might see a small letter, either a D or no letter at all. That letter tells you where the coin was made. No letter? It was minted in Philadelphia. A D means it came from Denver. Flip the coin over, and the reverse side features two curved wheat stalks framing the bold words, 1 cent, and United States of America. At the top is the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, which means, out of many, one. This wheatback design is where the coin gets its nickname, the wheat penny. It's a design that ran from 1909 to 1958, and while these coins were once common, collectors today know they represent a bygone era of American money. But what makes the 1957 version of the wheat penny stand out? Well, first, let's talk about production. The U.S. Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins in 1957, over 282 million from Philadelphia and nearly 1.05 billion from Denver. So yes, the coin itself isn't rare by number. But that's only part of the story. What truly matters is condition, mint mark, and most exciting of all, errors. Let's start with condition. In the coin collecting world, condition is everything. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70. The higher the grade, the better the condition. Most 1957 pennies you'll find today are heavily circulated, scratched, discolored, worn down. But a 1957 penny that has been preserved in mint state condition, showing full detail and original luster with no signs of wear, is far more valuable. Especially when it grades above MS 65 or higher. Now let's talk mint marks. As mentioned, the coin was minted in both Philadelphia and Denver. While the Denver Mint produced more coins overall, Philadelphia pennies are more likely to appear in high-grade condition. And when you combine the right mint mark with a perfect condition, now you're getting somewhere. But the biggest factor of all? Minting errors. Some of the rarest and most valuable 1957 wheat pennies weren't made that way on purpose. They're valuable because of mistakes. Back in the 50s, minting technology wasn't as precise as it is today. Dies would wear out. Machines would misalign. Human error was more common. And when that happened, the result was sometimes a coin with a doubled image, a misplaced mint mark, or a partial strike. Among collectors, these error coins are incredibly desirable. Why? Because they're rare. They weren't meant to exist. But a few slipped past quality control and made their way into circulation. Today, finding a 1957 penny with a doubled die obverse, where the lettering or Lincoln's face appears doubled, is like hitting the jackpot. Other errors, like off-center strikes, die cracks, or repunched mint marks, can also send the value soaring. So what happens when you combine these three ingredients, a 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny in near-perfect condition, with a mint mark from a sought-after location, and a dramatic, verified mint error? Well, then you have something very, very special. These coins are the unicorns of the Lincoln series. Hard to find. Highly desirable. And when authenticated and graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC, they command staggering prices on the open market. Now, let's be honest. Most people walk right past these kinds of coins every day. They drop them in tip jars, lose them in the couch, or toss them into a drawer without a second thought. But every once in a while, someone takes a closer look. Maybe at a flea market. Maybe while going through an old family coin collection. Maybe in a roll of pennies from the bank, and when they spot that glint of uncirculated luster, that doubling in the letters, that tiny imperfection that tells a much bigger story, they realize they might be holding something extraordinary. So what's the real value of a 1957 wheat penny, for an average circulated example? Maybe a few cents, but for one of the rarest finds, an uncirculated, mint state 1957 Lincoln wheat penny, complete with a dramatic and verified error, graded at the top of the scale. That coin recently sold for an astonishing total of $150,000. Yes. A single copper penny. Worth $150,000. Today, we're going deep into the story of a very special coin, the 1917 Lincoln wheat penny. Now, before you brush it off as just an old piece of copper, let me say this: what you're about to hear will make you want to run and check every coin jar, every drawer, every dusty old box in your attic. Because if you have one of these little beauties, and it has the right features, you could be holding a genuine slice of history, and possibly a small fortune. Let's set the stage. The year was 1917. America was a very different place. The world was in the grip of the First World War, and the United States had just entered the conflict. Woodrow Wilson was president. Silent films filled the theaters. The first jazz records were just beginning to spin. And in the midst of all that change and turmoil, the U.S. Mint quietly struck millions of pennies, coins that would pass through the hands of soldiers, farmers, factory workers, and schoolchildren. Among those coins, the now legendary 1917 Lincoln wheat penny. This coin wasn't just pocket change, it was part of an era. A time capsule. A little copper token carrying the face of one of America's greatest presidents, Abraham Lincoln, and a symbol of unity and strength during a turbulent moment in our nation's history. Now, let's take a closer look at the coin itself. On the obverse, the front, we see a bold profile of President Lincoln, facing right. It's the same image that's still used on modern pennies, but this version has a deeper charm. Above his head, the words, "In God We Trust." To the left, the word "Liberty." And on the right side, the date, 1917. Just below the date, depending on your coin, you might see a small letter, either a D or an S. That tiny letter is your first clue that you might have something truly special. Here's why: that letter is the mint mark. A D stands for the Denver Mint. An S means it was minted in San Francisco. And if there's no letter at all, your penny came from the main U.S. Mint in Philadelphia. All three types were produced that year. Philadelphia minted the most, over 196 million. Denver produced about 55 million, and San Francisco just over 32 million. But here's where it gets interesting. While the Philadelphia coins are more common, high-grade examples from any of the mints, especially San Francisco, are extremely hard to find today. Think about it. This coin is over 100 years old. Most of the 1917 wheat pennies were spent, passed down, worn out, lost, melted, or damaged. Very few survived in pristine condition. Fewer still survived with unique mint errors. And it's those coins, the rare survivors, that make collectors go wild. So, what exactly makes a 1917 wheat penny valuable? It comes down to three key factors: condition, mint mark, and rarity due to minting errors. Let's talk condition first. If your 1917 penny is dark, scratched, or heavily worn, it's still a piece of history, but it probably won't fetch more than a few dollars. But if it's been preserved in mint state condition, showing crisp detail, a smooth surface, and full luster, then you're already in a much more exciting category. These coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, from 1 to 70. Anything over 60 is considered uncirculated. Above 65? You're in premium territory. Next, let's talk about mint marks. The San Francisco Mint, represented by an S, produced the fewest coins in 1917. That means fewer of them survive today, especially in high condition. If you're lucky enough to have a 1917 S penny in excellent shape, you're already holding something quite rare. But what really makes collectors' jaws drop is the third factor: errors. Back in 1917, minting technology was far from perfect. Mistakes happened more frequently than most people realize. Some coins were struck twice, creating what's called a double die, where the lettering or Lincoln's profile appears faintly duplicated. Others had off-center strikes, die cracks, or repunched mint marks, all of which are considered valuable by collectors. Now imagine this: a 1917 S wheat penny, in mint state condition, with a bold doubling on the date or "In God We Trust," certified and graded by a trusted service like PCGS or NGC. That's the kind of coin people fight over at auctions. That's the kind of penny that turns heads, gets written about in collector magazines, and makes headlines in the numismatic world. You might be wondering, how often do coins like that turn up? Not often. But they do exist. And when they do, they don't last long in private hands. Most end up in high-end collections or museums. And when they change hands, the price tag attached can be nothing short of jaw-dropping. In fact, there have been cases where collectors and dealers have discovered a 1917 wheat penny with all the right traits, the kind of coin most people overlook, and walked away from the sale with a life-changing sum. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. What's the highest recorded sale of a 1917 Lincoln wheat penny? Well, one incredibly rare example, struck in San Francisco, preserved in near-perfect condition, and featuring a dramatic mint error, was sold to a private collector for an unbelievable amount. The final sale price, $160,000. Yes. You heard that right. 1 cent, sold for $160,000. So next time you're sorting through your change, visiting an estate sale, or flipping through a dusty coin album handed down by a grandparent, take a good look at that old penny. If it says 1917 and has that little S or D mint mark, don't let it go. Examine it. Grade it. Authenticate it, because you just might be holding something worth far more than anyone ever imagined. Thanks for watching. If you love discovering rare coins, untold stories from America's past, and learning how everyday objects can hold hidden treasure, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new video. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your hands steady, and your collection growing. Happy hunting, and may your next penny be the one that changes everything.